Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm looking at Blood Syndicate #1. I'm back again with a top comic of 1993. Been a little while since I've dove back into that era. Unfortunately, though, this is not really a top comic. Like all the Milestone books, none of them seem to crack the top 300 of that year, which is saying something because these properties, most of them kind of hung around for a long time. As I said in my other Milestone videos I've done so far, I've done Hardware and Icon #1. This kind of flew under my radar in a way. I mean, I knew it existed. I knew it was coming out. I saw ads for it, but it wasn't really something I would have gravitated to for a couple of reasons. First of all, I was just so into Image and so into Valiant. Mostly, and Marvel was my big company, and the DC stuff I was getting was really just the two big events, the Superman event, the Death and Return, and the Batman Nightfall stuff. So that's probably where I started seeing ads for the Milestone books. For those reasons, and just having a kid budget, this definitely wouldn't have really cracked into my lineup of books to get. I regret that, looking back, having read some of the first issues now, that I really enjoyed. And they were probably some of the better comics, definitely better than a lot of the stuff I was getting. I will say, as far as this one goes, the title, Blood Syndicate, and just the initial look of these characters and their outfits felt very derivative of what Image was doing even at the time. And then Image went off and did their thing, and in a lot of ways, Image was knockoff Marvel DC. However, it had that edginess, that 90s edginess to it that even Marvel and DC were copying. So this kind of had that almost generic Image look to it. So had I seen this, I probably would have skipped it just for that reason alone. I mean, it even has blood in the title, like a lot of Image books were at the time. Blood Brothers. The Rub the Blood book of the Blood Brothers thing, Blood Strike, Moonblood, all these characters had blood. And so again, at this point, it feels very much like it's trying to imitate what was popular in Image. But how is it inside? Let's open it up and take a look. Our writer is Dwayne McDuffie with Ivan Valise Jr. Or wait, no. Yeah, because it says and writers. Penciler is Trevor Von Eden. I'm going to point out Janet Jackson doing the color artist. Janet Jackson was doing a lot of the early Valiant stuff. So good colorist over there. I've heard some people try to kind of throw shade at the early Valiant color palette because it's kind of mild in a lot of ways, but compared to what Marvel and DC were doing, it had a high quality print to it that stood out. So Janet Jackson, gonna give her a shout out here. Also in the bulletins page, they mention how these books had some kind of updated coloring process that was new to the time. Anyway, we're going to jump into the story here. We meet this reporter whose name is Rob, which confused me because it's a woman. Maybe I don't know. That's never met a woman named Rob before. She's wearing a very 90s outfit with this is probably a one-piece type thing with these big shoulder pads and this oversized beret on. It's pretty corny. She's working for the last newspaper of the city of Dakota, and she wants to go over to this place called Paris Island, which apparently has just been taken over by street gangs, including this one named Blood Syndicate. And that's where she's going to go to do a story on them. This bridge was an Icon as well, and I don't know if I missed something, because Hardware was the first issue, and Hardware had nothing to do with this Big Bang event that's mentioned in this. It's mentioned in Icon, and maybe it happened in Static. I've not read Static #1 yet, but I think this was the second title that came out for the Milestone line. So some of that to me is confusing about this Big Bang event that happened, that I know about it just from reading the general description of the Milestone world. There was something that exploded that essentially gave some people some powers. Not everybody, though. I mean, Hardware is sort of like an Iron Man character, and Icon is actually like an alien, almost more like Martian Manhunter in a lot of ways. Anyhow, she said you used to be able to take this bridge over there, but the bridge has been cut off. So now you get on this subway, and the subway's automated because nobody wants to work this line. And she's on the subway and says it smells terrible and stuff. And the subway stops, and this guy is the one that made it stop. And he's the one that's invited her as a reporter to come and see what's going on. And his name is Third Rail. So he obviously has some kind of electrical powers. And she's like, when do I get to meet him? And they're right here. So pretty quick, we get a spread to meet all the characters. Again, in many ways, the designs of these characters feel very, very image-like of the time. So they're 90s characters. They're 90s designs. And even a lot of the image books at the time would do this. They would have a big character shot. And since it's the first issue, you got to give everybody their name right off the bat. I like this character, Brickhouse. It's a woman, and she looks like she's made out of bricks. You got this guy, Wise John, Flashback, DMZ, Tech 9, Fade, Holocaust, and Masquerade. And all these characters get to do something in this issue, so that works out. We've already had Third Rail here do something, so that's a lot of characters to squeeze into this first book. Wise son is being kind of an ass about the reporter coming, and Brickhouse hits him hard. So there's dysfunction amongst the team. She hits him so hard, he falls down to this concrete floor, but he gets right back up. And that's where you find out she's even a woman. Like, don't talk to me like that, all right? I'm a lady. And he just gets back up, showing that he's somewhat invulnerable. And he even like challenges her, says like, you can't hurt me, so let's keep going at it. And the Tech 9 guy is apparently the leader of the group, and he tries to defuse the situation. And they're like, we're getting ready to go on a run or a mission, and here's you a gun to take care of yourself. You get to hang back, take care of yourself, reporter lady. And she says, where are we going? We're going to destroy the means which the white man's poison is disseminated in our community. So he's using a long-winded way to say, we're going to take down a crack house. And this is what he said. He's like, we're going to take down a crack house and keep all the money. And then to lead you into more, to keep you in like kind of on the hook for story stuff here, Brickhouse has said, I don't know why we're wasting our time taking her to do this. I want to tell her about the conspiracy. And we'll talk about that later. Don't worry about it. The Big Bang, don't pay her any mind. Her head's all messed up since the Big Bang. So that's where you kind of get that, like, they're mentioning the Big Bang, but we don't ever see it happening. The Big Bang is what gave them their powers. They go to this crack house and kind of move quick here because the dialogue is pretty good. It doesn't resort to trying to do slang in the dialogue, and I appreciate that. They don't try to do accents in the dialogue, and I appreciate that. So I would say the dialogue is pretty strong in here, and you're seeing conflict between the characters themselves. They are a team that is held together very tenuously. Here's the company line page, and this is where we get some kind of order here. So Hardware was the first book. Here's Hardware 2 coming out with Icon 1. So this Blood Syndicate must have come out the same month as Hardware 2 and Icon 1. So Icon 1 and Blood Syndicate 1, I guess, came out at the same time. Hardware 3 and Blood Syndicate 2 coming out the next month. So Static isn't even out yet. Interesting. I want to say, too, this was a very 90s thing to do, to put some kind of pattern behind the text. And it was so trendy back then. They did it all the time, and it's so obnoxious. It's like they learned a new technique or something in desktop publishing and overused it crazily. I'm not exactly sure what Tech 9's powers is, other than that he carries a lot of guns. I don't think he's bulletproof. Maybe he's just like super marksman. They don't really get into his power, but this Fade guy definitely has like a phasing power, that he walks through a wall, and he goes into this crack house facility, which is like a building. So me and my suburbs of Tennessee growing up, I only knew about this stuff from movies like New Jack City or something. It's more like an apartment building that has a quad where people are laying around, and he goes in there and they shoot at him, and they're shooting at him. So what? Like, he's not worried about him because he can phase. And he opens the gate and lets them in, and then they just proceed to demolish the place. Like, they come in. This brick house seems to get bigger every time I see her. But a couple of them are bulletproof. See, here's Tech 9 hiding behind the others that he's not bulletproof. But this Holocaust is, Wise Son is, and Brick House is. And Fade is not necessarily bulletproof, but they just kind of go through him. So here's where you see Tech 9 kind of pop out from behind, and she says he shoots the guns out of their hands like it's the Old West. But he must just like blow their hands up. So I don't know what kind of gun he's using, or if something about his power adds some extra impact when they get shot, because his hands are just shot off, and his, maybe they're shot off too, and that's just blood squirting up, but it's like they look like fingers at the same time. So pretty crazy. The Masquerade character is able to morph into a lion, so you get to kind of see what he's doing. Look at him getting it, like he bites them and must eat them because his mouth is dripping with blood after he attacks them. The reporter's hiding out. You get to see Third Rail doing more of his electrical stuff, where he short circuits the electricity in the place and makes it dark. So this part was intense. So I don't know why she's running up the stairs saying, "Hey guys, wait for me." She's running up there, and this guy pulls a shotgun out and shoots her head off. I was not ready for that. That was a shocking moment to me. And even this scene, I mean, like, it looks like her head's just like completely coming off. Yeah, because there's her shoulders and stuff. I mean, he literally shot her head off. that is insane. Is this code approved? This was code approved. Look at this. As if this wasn't. This shows you how like just the code was just pointless. I mean, look at these hands here. Look at this here. This was code approved. Oh gosh, that's hilarious. This flashback character, and this coloring, this reminds me of Janet Jackson kind of work from the Valiant stuff. So her power is to go back in time at least a short couple of minutes, or a minute, 3 seconds. I think they say 3 seconds. And she's able to go back. She's like, I hope it's just enough. So she's able to go back just enough and save the reporter. So that was a quick MacGuffin you have. And then she says, like, I can travel back in time, but only 3 seconds. Sometimes it's enough. I mean, 3 seconds is pretty close. It's pretty close. So she's able to like go back in time just enough to save the reporter. And he's still holding his gun, and all of a sudden he just like bursts into flames. And that's when you get to see what Holocaust can do. So he has like a flame power. As they move through the house, this is, I guess, where they bag up the drugs and stuff. Brick House is knocking down walls, and they're tearing things down. They get into the room where the drugs are actually stored. And you see this flashback character, she's got a handful like behind her back. Like she's keeping some for herself or something. Tech 9, I guess this is Tech 9. It's either Tech 9 or is it Wise Son? I couldn't really tell. I thought it was Tech 9 saying it because there was some confusion to me here. Okay, it's Wise Son is the one that goes in first. So Wise Son goes in with Holocaust, and he says, torch it all. Just burn it down. And he's like, well, I wanted to keep it and sell it, but might as well. So he decides to torch it down, and then Tech 9 comes running up and says, like, what are you doing? Stop it. You're going to set the whole building on fire. This part was confusing to me because of Wise Son wearing essentially a baseball hat and glasses, and then you got Tech 9 wearing essentially a baseball hat, and they're more like goggles, though. But that was confusing. I was like, well, he said to burn it all down. Now he's telling him to stop. But it's two different characters. It makes more sense to me now that I'm looking at it. Good color on this page, too. Good use of shadows. And then they go through and they start rescuing the people, the innocent people that were in the building. And they get them all out. Then Tech 9 is like, what were you all doing? And Holocaust is like, the bystanders were a gang. What's with all this Boy Scout? I like they blur out the curse words with just like a squiggly mark. Anyway, the bystanders were a gang. This ain't about nothing. We're turf, but this weren't about nothing but turf and loyalty. You ain't down with that. Maybe you shouldn't be running things. Who's going to run it better, Holocaust? Who's going to run it better, Holocaust? You? Only one way to find out. And then the showdown is they're going to fight to be leader of the gang. And that's the end of the issue. Then you have a little editor's blurb here saying they were a little worried about this issue because the characters aren't very heroic and that they, unlike traditional heroes that try to, well, like they said, traditional heroes that try to make violence the last resort. I don't know what heroes they're talking about in comics. That they just go straight to the violence. I mean, they did. I appreciate that they're set up to be a street gang, more or less, with superpowers. They're doing the right thing, but there's some ambiguity about it. And like I said earlier, I just appreciate that they didn't try to resort to the whole, like, writing in accented dialogue, using often fake slang or what they think would be modern slang or any of that stuff. And to me, that made this a more enjoyable read. Compared to Hardware and Icon, this is probably not my favorite of the three, or least favorite of the three that I've read so far. And I think it had, probably because there's so many characters, and while they did give each character a moment to shine, to do something, none of them struck me as like anybody I wanted to follow month to month. I will try to pick up more of these because I do just in general want to know more about the Milestone era, especially this like first year of it. But of the three that I've read, this is definitely the least interesting one to me. That I think, had I picked it up as a kid, I may have picked up the second issue, but I'm not 100% sure that it was something I would have tried to stick with. I guess Icon must have been debuting right at this time too. It's got a little preview of it. So if it was the third one and then Static being the last one. But anyway, that's all I got for Blood Syndicate #1. Until next time, read your comics.